largest snake we have in the park is the blue indigo. These are highly, highly endangered snakes. They're very coveted to collectors, and this is why they're so scarce, because they've been collected out of the wild. They're very large, heavily bodied snakes, and they're very, very, very docile. So it's against the law to possess these snakes. They have the ability to kill and eat rattlesnakes with no problem.
Wow.
The most common, besides the black racer we have around here, is the corn snake, or the red rat snake it's commonly called. They're very docile as well. The yellow rat snake you see climbing up the tree here, if you've ever seen the belly of a snake, they have hundreds of scales that are all one way, like fingernails. They can activate these individually, basically, and grip the pine bark. That's how they can climb right up these trees. Now notice the color of this. It's dark mustard-looking yellow with black stripes going down its body. This is an offspring. This is a baby. They don't always look like the mother. A lot of animals in nature don't resemble the parents when they're born. We got 3 woodpeckers in the park, and they all have red heads. And this is the red-headed woodpecker. This is the red-bellied woodpecker. And this is the pileated woodpecker. This is the largest one we have. He's about the size of a seagull. Ever why you ever why they don't get dame damage when they pound their head into a tree with their beak? It's because they have the brainstem is actually encased in fluid so that it's cushioned. So that's okay. I'm dyslexic. Dyslexic. I mean, yeah. Anyway, before this bird became the largest one, the Ivorybill was the largest bird we had, the largest woodpecker we had. And it was thought to be extinct, but has been spotted numerous times in the swamps of Louisiana. So it may be on a comeback trail. Now for the woodpeckers and other creatures, we leave dead trees standing in the park that aren't in danger of falling on campsites or buildings or trucks or anything like that for the wildlife. Now I've got a couple stories about the eastern hognose snake too. This is another extremely docile snake that is not poisonous. It's the eastern hognose snake. They have a little turned up nose. Because he's so docile, he has no protection, so he has invented a few things. If he feels threatened, he'll flare out his head to look like a cobra. Leave me alone, leave me alone. And I swear this is true. If that doesn't work, he'll roll over on his back and play dead. Hang his tongue out and everything. And you roll him back over on his stomach, he'll turn right back over on his back. It's true. It's very true.
What kind of snake is it again?
Hognose. Hognose snake. If that didn't work, he would rattle his tail in the leaves to make you think he's a rattlesnake. Eastern hognose. They have western hognose snakes also. True story. The common garter snake. This is the southern variety, but most all states have their versions of garter snakes. Now, remember, our mission is to preserve and restore Florida's resources. This is one of the reasons we don't want you to gather wood from the surrounding forest, is we want the wood to lay on the ground and decompose and recycle back into nutrients for future plants. So the bracket fungi like this and other decomposers attack this down wood, and through rains and freezes and woodpeckers and other animals and the armadillo and insects, the armadillo start trying to scratch into these rotten logs for bugs also. We have good reasons for not letting you do these things, so this is trying to restore our natural resources. This is my last slide. This is a sunset picture of a cypress swamp. And this is when I appeal to each and every one of you to instill in your young ones and your children the importance of preserving state parks and protecting them. The coastal parks, you may not be able to have access to the Gulf of Mexico in future generations because it'll all be condos. So any of the park properties we purchase is to preserve it for future generations. I'll entertain any questions you have, but thank you so much for coming. I enjoyed myself very much.
How about hogs? Talk about hogs? Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you. Speaking of exotic species, the feral hogs are creating a terrible, terrible problem here. Anywhere you go in the park, you can see the rootings that we've been done. And I refer to that as hoggage. Terrible hoggage over here.
What were your first two jobs 30 years ago here when you started?
First two jobs?
Well, first couple of jobs. I mean, how did you get started in this business you just retired from?
Well, being raised in Florida, and before I knew when I got out of high school I wanted to be in the Park Service. But I wasn't sure I wanted to be in Florida. So I went around the country for 10 years. New Hampshire, New Hampshire, Vancouver, Washington, and what have you, and always kept coming back to Florida. So that's when I finally said I'm staying, and that's when I joined the Park Service. But before that, I worked in lumber companies, Pinellas Lumber Company. In New Hampshire, I sold high-fashion women's shoes.
No.
Yes, I did. Brown Shoe Store in Concord, New Hampshire. Sure did. And gosh, things like that. So it wasn't the skills I learned. I'm a carpenter, what have you, and that gave me the skills to convince them to hire me in the Park Service. Yes.
What are they doing to try to control the hog situation?
Well, there's a couple of ways, a few ways. We, for a long time, put out big traps, 8x8 steel traps to catch them. Hopefully a whole bunch of them at one time, a sow and a bunch of babies, and they'd be killed right there in the trap and moved out to decompose. Nature runs its course. We have contracted with trappers to come in with the same type traps and trap them and remove them, and they do what they want with them. Currently we have traps out, and you might hear gunshots in the evening and the early morning. We are actively, some of our volunteers and park staff with shotguns are out actively hunting them.
Are they aggressive at all?
They can be. I mean, they're interbred with domestic pigs, interbred with wild pigs. And one of our volunteers was charged by one, yes, a wounded one as a matter of fact, you know, and it was kind of an issue for him, but he was able to get off a couple more shots before he got him.
Campers see them around?
Yes, yes. You never know when you're going to see them.
You know, like you're saying, the route.
Mm-hmm. We'll come through around the park drive, and the ball field over there by the pool area is perfectly fine. The next morning, half of it's dug up like a big rotor-tiller's been through it. And in the camp area, around behind the sites, along the road shoulder, everywhere you see it anymore.
What are they rooting for?
Bugs, grubs.
But they'll eat anything, right?
Yeah, they'll eat anything.
That's a problem all through Central Florida, though, not just in the park.
It started in Texas for the most part and has migrated seriously into the south. And for every one we kill, 10 or 20 are born. You know, it's a futile battle, but our mission is to restore our resources. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm surprised I don't see any kudzu.
Well, it's the wrong time of year. We call it air potato. And same thing, kudzu. During the summertime, it is a very bad issue. There's several exotic plants, and that's a bad one. It grows to potatoes, and kids will pick them and heave them. play with them and stuff. But the volunteer staff and other volunteers and park staff were actively treating them with herbicides and manually removing them. But in the summertime, inevitably they keep coming back. More of the potatoes, and we try and attack them when they're young. So it's still a problem.